Grand evening. You already know the vibes. Since we riding this weekend wave, I felt the need to tap into a vibe. Sugar and spice and everything nice, right? Until it's spoiled. You know, most of the time we be in the world, man. We watching circumstances take place. Shut up! Damn dogs, yo. Most of the time we be in the world and we watching things take place. Whether it's mystical or innate mundane understanding, right? And the easiest thing to do is pass judgment. It's real easy to pass judgment. It's like, that's the only way you can feel like you can make sense of some shit sometime or kill a connection to the value. Hey, my judgment is. And that goes for everything. It's almost like, even from a child's perspective, you know what I'm saying? What's adversity? Adversity falls from the sides, right? So it's like the things you go through, the choices that's made and shit. And then you follow that constantly as a repetition, like this will be the future norm. And then you wonder, what is that for? Everything doesn't have a strong pretense as far as how they think or see. So it has to be nudged, whether that's beneficial or detrimental, right? And ultimately, there's always going to be a middle placement that has to receive this hidden choice. Whether it's aware of it or completely oblivious. And that's the level of control. It's like, because you're not. And what's even more crazy is you're not until the circumstance proves its detriment. How does that speak to the value? And then the world is decisive, like it makes all these assumptions just to make you agree with why. Almost like saying this is what you gravitate to. When in fact, that's not even true, like, you know what I'm saying? Everything good gets everything gravitated to it, no matter what the circumstance is. If it's good, it's going to gravitate to it, negative and positive. But in reverse, good just don't gravitate to negative shit. The negative shit has to pose its face. And then it's still an understanding to acceptance, almost like, you know, Cruella de Vil or The Witch in the Woods with the candy house. It's not to say The puppies gravitated to Cruella, moreover than their potential need for survival, or even the aspect of the children running through the woods so hungry they ran into a candy house. That leads to intention or opportunity. You know, the world is built this way, and this is why silence is golden on different particulars. Every tool that's used to protect you is also used to destroy you in that aspect. You know, like saying, if you're quiet because of the good things that you have coming to you and you don't want to spoil it, opposed to someone being quiet because they don't want you to know that they're trying to expose something. And most of these things happen out of greed on a negative aspect, like, I will do something, I will do this, I will do that. That's how you know ultimately the spirit has been compromised. You know, the Smurfs, they used to roll in a group until one of them was compromised. You know, we don't wake up to circumstances until after the fact, but we try to balance out the energy because of how positive circumstances that we might have went against unconsciously by certain agreements. Like, all of us have that dark spot where we interact with things that just not for us. And some of us know, and some of us don't know because of belief. Who don't want to believe that life can be whatever you make it, opposed to somebody giving you that understanding and making it just for another pretense. You know, the mind is going to work to serve its way of looking at everything. It's going to always work in that mode attached to the individual that has its own personal criteria. So even if you're good, the mind is going to work to give you the reality that you see fit for yourself, even if that may be detrimental in the long run, because it's not privy to pay attention to the solidification of what goes on in the world. It's only there to serve what you think you can bring forth into creation. This is why sometimes we be like, damn, I didn't know. And it's all these different means of understanding that exist within these stories that may resonate to how you see life or how you perceive things. What is doing better? What is good anymore? And then, you know, you can sit down and you can actually see how energies work opposed to how these energies are put into play. Because it's like something that I have never done. I will ultimately be good at it as soon as I get a chance to, because it's not something that I work. So it'll be a fresh perception on how I handle that circumstance. So like, even if you're not personally per se a good person, when you go to work good intention, it'll seem so damn good because it's not something that character is used to. So that new perception of trying something that is not integral based to do, when it does do that option, it looks dope. Like, oh shit. Whether it's a costume or an act. Hold on, I got to throw my water. See, we watch things happen around us, and we became the same thing that would have watched us be the great that we was when we was birthed out of the divine pretense. Ultimately changing places with perception. And it's not even like it's rocket science or it's hard to do. It's all in the reality of acceptance. Like, we are all protecting something as far as how our characters see fit to sit in those perceptions, when in fact that's a new integrity that you're working on so much you're missing the ones that you're not. This is why it's important to deal with balance on all scales. All scales. Mental, physical, spiritual, even within your characteristics. You know, I used to do consultations when I was into the hip hop. And it was so easy to ask a certain amount of questions to an individual and know what they were lacking because of what they would say. It shows the integral to what they thought they knew. See, these tactics are used all around the board. The world is very small and very large at the same time, opposing to how you know things. And that falls on all characteristic traits, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, or characteristics. They say home is where the heart is, right? Well, you carry your home with you everywhere your heart is. How many people you letting in your house? You know, and that's meaning to say, how many people do you allow to enter your mental, physical, spiritual, and your characteristics? See, that's where we divulge our trust. See, what I'm talking to you about is how. You know, most of the time, and this has already been usurped by the government, scientists, and stuff of that nature, how to re-engineer things from its completion. So it's like what's already complete, they can re-engineer it to find out the workings of the particular way that things are taking place. So then we end up falling victim to these attributes, and because the standpoint of what's reality of what authority may be, we think we can say that you were wrong or you were right. And that's only by how it feels to the characteristic traits when it's within these circumferences of energy that we just wasn't knowing that possibly would take place. That goes against the integral motion of what you do every day. You know, I used to look at things and be like, damn, you changed up. And people would be like, nah, you just tripping. You know, the simplicity of shit. We don't have an opportunity to see everything up front as it may play its own particular role when the game plays. It's just like you're in it. Almost like saying, imagine playing chess, knowing how to play but not knowing what the pieces do. You know, and I can understand how pain would subsequently take a place in the understanding of certain roles, because it'll hurt naturally to pull resistance in a muscle if you're working out. Like, that's the whole point, to hurt, so therefore you can gain. But what are you gaining? Are you gaining the future pretense of an understanding that will solidify everything that you were naturally here to come and experience? Or are you gaining another retrospect of detriment, unfortunate to your characteristic? Oh, that's just your bad. You know what I'm saying? You know, my mind is blown majority of the time when, and this is how I know I live energies of this retrospect. My mind will be blown to certain things that would take place, and some of my homeboys would be like, "Yo, you gotta be harder than that." I'm like, for what? That's a muscle I choose not to work, especially when I know the sensitivity of life. Nobody likes their face because of the integrity of base. It's like you want to protect that face. And because that face is more relevant to you and your understanding, you don't want to damage that. You don't want to put that out there to where it's exposed for who you are. You rather put on the front, which begins a new integral base that you will now work in every time you're in that circumstance, or that circumsituation. You know, missing a mark is real easy from being self-serving. And then the rest of the world will gravitate to things that are not in that characteristic. So therefore, it's easy to usurp that energy. Just let me be silent for a minute while I gain this knowledge of what I'm trying to access. There is no freedom in that. There is no comfort of being warm or understanding of accountability. You know, it's how far from the womb do we actually go? Even within conversation, you have a group of people, women or men, who will say things of, we all go through this. And I remember, and I said this in a post a while ago, I was like, you know, I remember back in the day when niggas was considered to be bitches because they would talk so fucking much. But my grandfather was adamant on me knowing the truth can stand by itself. Even when you're more vocal about how you see things turning out for yourself or what the particular goal may be within that aspect of life, it still has to be challenged amongst to a circumstance of people who have never solidified these acts within themselves because of the choices that they made. And best believe it's always down to the choices that you make. And it's crazy. Me and my homeboy was talking the other day, and you know, we kind of think a lot similar to circumstances, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we always have ever since we was younger, like in our teens or early 20s or whatever. We always been on the same type time. It'd be like sometimes I could just feel the energy in the air and I'll slide. You know what I'm saying? Like I just slide because I already know what, you know what I'm saying? This shit just don't feel right. And then you look towards the understanding of what disregard does. How can I care if I'm disregarding you? Only to make excuses of why I disregard certain things. So then you're justifying the reason why something was disregarded opposed to the fact of why it's real. But then ultimately, when people go through certain things, they quick to say, I don't remember why that took place, or it wasn't what you thought. But in the same breath, when they went through those things, they hated the fact of being disregarded. So it's almost like, give me a chance to do this to someone else. Let me feel that. See, it's more to this story within life and different perceptions that come from all angles of people. But I'm just giving you a peek through a window. I don't know what it means to say you got to do better. But I ultimately can say, be more yourself, be more real, because regardless if that means being better or losing, you have to solidify what you are in front of the masses before you change that. Otherwise, it ends up being the same thing and repetitive. And we all know mathematics don't lie. Having these understandings and growth when it comes to circumstantial situation will be detriment for people who do not want to lose or have a belief system in what they believe they gained. Or if there's an ultimate agenda that you're just not aware of, that will be a subsequent situation that you'll have to deal with as well. I ain't gonna hold y'all because we already cracked 3 7s. It's 21:38 right now. I just wanted to bring that knowledge to you real quick because the story of life is deep. And this is only gonna be for minds that can actually equate the words that I'm using. The words that I'm using. So be mindful. And you already know the vibes. NAGA.